awaits the Claxton from Denise Lewis. And the best of the club athletes in Britain poised just behind them to join them around the course. There goes the Claxton, there goes the elite men's field. And the club athletes, there'll be someone from the club start that sprints past to get their moment on television. Don't know who it will be this year, but they can see Richard Whitehead getting off. I think what is his 7th marathon of the year as he tries to do 20 this whole year, just asking for a bit of space at the start of the marathon. And here we go, we have got our person going for 5 minutes of fame here on the left-hand side of the screen, being totally ignored by the elite athletes. It's chaos. It all starts of major races. Major road races are chaos, but the London Marathon, look at that. What a wonderful picture. All those athletes behind it. The other mass starts will get going in waves of 5 minutes or so, but here are the best of the male runners here at the London Marathon.
It really is the best. This is the cream. I mean, London Marathon do it every year, but this is a mouth-watering race in store. But I just love seeing that close-up at the start line. All these, not just fresh faces, but fresh shoes. And except with one pair with British athlete Luke Caldwell, looked like he'd put a few miles through his pair. I was just looking at them, but everyone was just, that's the thing about the marathon. You start so fresh, so excited, and then get to the last mile and you've got the euphoria, excitement and exhaustion and dirtiness of all the shoes again.
Again, business as usual here in the women's elite race. You see Jepkoskai and Alemu popping over for a drink. Hassan going there as well. No drink from Asefa. And the two pacemakers as well. Is that a deliberate decision to just Asefa? I'm not sure. I don't think you would be... I think you take as many drinks as you can nowadays with the technology of the nutrition and a day like this with the warm weather.
I mean, yeah, who are we to judge an ex-world record holder? But yeah, you would think nowadays that the information is you take as much as you can every 5K and hold on to it. And it's interesting, you've got the two kind of athletes we're looking at, Safer not taking a bottle, but Hassan taking a very slow and deliberate time over grabbing that bottle. And it was funny, Emil Caress, I spoke to him and he said that his coach Canova talks, it's really important to take your time over the drink station. If you lose a couple of seconds, that's fine, because you'll make that up through taking your time to get that fuel on and make certain you get it all inside. And I certainly at the moment, the way Hassan, oh, she is wincing a bit. There was a bit of a wince, but that gap was largely built up because of the drink station, making certain she got it. But this is where Hassan is unpredictable. She is wince, that was another wince. She is unpredictable, and she does kind of race with a lot of drama, and I don't know, man, that's actually looking a little bit more, I don't know, but anything's possible after what happened 2 years ago. We need to keep an eye on that.
So they're coming towards Kati Sark here. That is still the elite women's race. You can see Safan Hassan just a shade behind, and at 31.16 through 10 kilometres being credited to just Asefa. That's underneath the pace that was hit by Perez Cheptic here last year. She came through in 31.26, well under the 32 minutes Paula Radcliffe did for the course record. The pace fluctuates through the marathon. I'm trying to compare the splits to where those races were at this point in the race, because it's not always even as the course twists and turns and undulates. Now, Safan Hassan, in 2023, I think she started having problems a little bit later than this, but it was around about the halfway point. She was having stomach issues and she did drop back, and the real shame is if that's happening again, and if it's happening earlier as well. So De Bruyne and Scaroni have just gone through 20 kilometres in the women's wheelchair race. We have got a flying 400 here in London, as we do so often over Tower Bridge, a sort of a prize packet within the race available to the athlete that does the fastest 400-metre split. And that's something perhaps Sammy Kinghorn could look at, the athletes, the 100-metre. That's why De Bruyne let it be a two-person race until she felt like she should push on if she wanted to stay on. Certainly way under her own course record pace at the moment. Nearly 2 minutes under her own pace at halfway.
This men's race, it's like one of those athletics fantasy dinner tables, isn't it? All these athletes all sat round chewing their ear off about what they've experienced. Some incredible athletes in this field, and of course behind the pacemakers, who is it? Kipchoge. I mean, what isn't there to say about what this athlete's achieved?
He's absolutely phenomenal, and I think everyone would love him to do a bikini and kind of outperform what everyone's expecting him to do here today. I think a lot of people have kind of written him off. He was 6th in Tokyo last summer, in the World Marathon Major, sorry, in the spring, and then DNF'd in Paris. And that was just so upsetting for so many people. They really wanted to see him duke it out the whole way on those streets of London and of Paris, and he just couldn't quite get the job done. But he says he's back in good pace, in shape, and he feels good. I'm just confused with this pace because I can see we were due to have a second pack of Emmanuel Petros and Yemeni Berhan Kripa, and they're in this pack. These two, whether they've not quite split away with the pacemakers that are meant to be going a tiny bit slower. You can see pace 1, 2, 3 at the front here. They were asked to go 61:15 to give a finishing time somewhere between 2 hours and 1, 2 hours and 2. So they're doing their job, and there should have been one more pacemaker, Gideon Kiprotich, Rob, going a little bit slower for Petros and Kripa, the German and the Italian. And I don't know if they just looked at each other. You see Petros there in the red shirt and the glasses, and then just in the middle of the pack, and Kripa, sort of blonde tips on his hair right at the back of the pack. I would love it if they've just gone, it's ideal conditions, the size of this lead pack, let's just go with it and have a go.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest. If I was in a chase pack, I'm rubbing my hands right now. This is beautiful because again, with London Marathon, one of the great things about this event is you come here with an ambition to run fast times, but also to finish high up. And quite often athletes, this number of athletes, there's going to be a degree of athletes that fall off and possibly even DNF, and to gun down. So loving the confidence. Ngayi, I saw back there, the New York winner. The pacemakers are at the back, so maybe we need to wait till we get some splits, that maybe the lead group are not quite as hot as they should be.
Okay.
In this scenario, my prediction would be the guys at the front are not quite on the 61 pace, or 61 half pace, and actually the second group are more running the pace they should be. It's unlikely the chase pacers are running faster than they should. It'd be more likely they've almost had someone in their ear go, can we just cool off a little bit? So we'll find out when we get some splits, but yeah, it's certainly a big group at the moment, and it's almost like we're looking at the sub-2 event where you had the pincer kind of action of the pacemakers at the front, but unfortunately for Kipchoge, only 3 are not against him, everyone else is.
I was going to say, it's always looks the same, but a totally different mentality.
Yeah, exactly.
Opposite mentality. This group here in the women's race, they're working very well together. It seems pretty calm. We could see one of the pacemakers just asking Sefa to back off a tiny bit, but Hassan looks fine. You can't see her facial expressions all that well at the moment, but that grimace that we saw around about 10 kilometres, that seems to have settled down. Could just be some stomach issues, right? That just at that stage of the race, just something, a bit of a stitch.
I think she, and again, I'm cautious how I word this, but she's someone that kind of draws on that kind of drama within herself to kind of almost distract her from what she's doing. There's a large amount of psychology to that, to almost dismiss yourself, to relax yourself, and we're getting some incredible splits here. 5:01, 5:09, 5:17. Again, the reason they will fluctuate will be sometimes because of the course. Mile 6 is you're coming up to Cutty Sark, so it is a little bit of a twisty turny, and then you come out of that 5:01 is a bit more of a generous. But back to Hassan, she does kind of use that inner drama in herself almost as a way. She's wincing still there, and for someone to be wincing but then stay with it, there's almost like an inner mind game she's playing with herself to deal with what she's doing to get her to that second half, because naturally she is a track runner. She's incredibly fast, and obviously there's a big difference to running a sub-2 minute 800 meters to running for 2+ hours, and so she'll be playing a lot of mind games in herself, and that's one of the best things about marathon, is run your own race, run in your own head for as long as possible. And I certainly wouldn't, any other athlete, I'd be worried for them, but Hassan, anything's possible, and we never get a boring story out of her when it comes to racing, whether it's track or road.
I think you're right. I think there's no need to sort of overreact to Hassan. Yeah, like we say, if there is definitely still a grimace on her face there, but when you get to watch, you have the opportunity to watch these athletes for so long. It's hard not to read into these little tells. And Alemu as well, there's a tiny rise there, but that's not a significant rise. And Alemu, the head bobbing, she's in real trouble there, Mugurtu Alemu. They're going fast in this race, but it's not crazy fast. We know it's slightly warm today, but that for Mugurtu Alemu, that's not a Hassan kind of rocking and rolling with the pace. I think Mugurtu Alemu could be in real trouble, and that's a really quick sort of change in pace from her and dropping right back behind Hassan.
Yeah, I know that little rise well, and it really annoyed me. And quite often I would sort of almost deliberately allow my legs not to force it. But again, we'll know over the next kind of mile or so whether that was a real hurt or whether she actually was just allowing herself to glide to the top of it. Because there is a front foot kind of push when you're going over little mounds like that. And there's also the mentality of, you know what, I'm just going to roll with it. And so, I mean, she's holding on Hassan there, but again, I do feel like her cadence is a little bit aggressive at the moment. But she won Valencia 2:16. She's a world-class athlete. She's got a lot of good history in the marathon, and she's certainly not to be dismissed. But at this point, the commentators' curse, we're kind of looking for these things to kind of assess and trying to read their body language of what's going through their head. But for me, Jocelyn, I just love her kind of tunnel vision, and she hasn't moved from the front. A safer, again, she's doing what she does, and I think between the four of them, I think we're in for a really good race, but we will start to see cracks appear a lot more. But Alemu does look like she's working a little bit hard, but we'll see.
And that almost seemed to inspire Sifan Hassan, I think. It's the other thing in a race, you can be out there thinking, I'm the only person that's finding it this hard. And it can feel very lonely, very suddenly. And so I think for Sifan Hassan, it was almost to see Alemu struggle like that and realise, OK, I'm not the only person feeling like I'm on my limit, feeling like this is a horrible race and we're only 45 minutes into it, because Hassan looks better than she did when we rejoined these elite women. But you're right, Janet Jepkosko with the green big, Jocelyn Jepkosko there with the green bib on her chest, looking nice and relaxed. To just Asefa, the Ethiopian, with the purple bib and the white vest just off towards the side there. Again, she's looked very, very switched on, very sort of locked into this race.
Yeah, and I think as well, something to bear in mind with a lot of these athletes.
Does start to look like a significant gap here in the women's elite race. Mugurtu Alemu, she faded and then she battled back, but I think that is Mugurtu Alemu setting up for a lonely last hour and a half on the roads here. Jocelyn Jepkosko to just Asefa, looking absolutely fine. The graphic here at 15 kilometres, I think it's crediting Sifan Hassan was second at that point in the race. This was sort of 3 minutes ago or so. That was the last time we saw Hassan getting involved in this lead pack, but she has now drifted down a little bit. You can see Eilish McColgan for Britain going well on her debut, some 2 minutes 50 behind this group. She's just working her way through that second chase pack, but to just Asefa looks over her shoulder, looks at her watch and wonders, where is my nemesis? Where is Sifan Hassan? Of course, we've said it time and time again, you can't write off the Dutch woman. She closed up, I think it was around about 28 seconds she was adrift in 2023 by mile 11 or so, and she did close down that gap. But to just Asefa and Jocelyn Jepkosko, there's no faltering there. They've got their drinks, they've stayed calm, they've stayed right with the pacemakers. And drama already for Sifan Hassan, and we're only 50 minutes into the race.
Yeah, this story's really starting to unfold now, and I think one of the things with, if the reports were true, as Sifan did say after the Olympics last year, and she hasn't raced since, she said she took 4 months off, which is a huge chunk of time. But she did also say it's the first time she's only trained for a marathon. So it's kind of a, you know, what form is that going to produce on the day when you have that much time off, but at the same time you're not trying to run a load of track races and run a marathon like she did in the Olympics last year. But listen, this is the beauty of this incredible race, is she is certainly not out of it. Alemu is unfortunately looking like she's going to be looking behind her now and trying to hold on, and hopefully she can get to the finish. We're not halfway. This is very early to be feeling it, but again, Hassan is a mind game player with herself, and there's nothing wrong, I've been there and done it myself, just to ease back and just get back under the red line a bit before going at it again. And sometimes athletes can spend too long, but again, that gap, it almost looks like it's ever so slightly she's nudging it back. This potentially for me, and it has been in history, just her way of dealing with the first half of a marathon to get to the game time. But Jocelyn, again, cool as a cucumber, a safer. she's come here with a purpose, she's come here with confidence, but I refer back to, she claimed her half marathon DNF in December was just a test. But again, athletes will say that when they're having a bad day, so we don't know. But I think of all the three athletes, Jocelyn is the one that's come in here with proven form, a proven PB, and a proven kind of race record coming into this. Hassan, this might just be a bit of race rustiness, and she looks a little bit more kind of eyes on the prize. She's not wincing as much now.
You're right, Chris. I think even though there is a bit of a gap there, that's better than Hassan looked through the last 15 minutes. I think the last couple of times we've joined this elite women's race, she has been grimacing, and that was whether she was using the wheelchair racer there or the motorbike, kind of felt like this was the opportunity to put in a little change of pace and get right back on the group. She looks absolutely fine now.
It's like watching the wheelchair race where the gaps kind of chop and change so quickly. I mean, this is the brilliance of Hassan. She is so in her own head right now, and she doesn't concern about the others. And Bridget and Asafa, they would have had a feeling, we've got rid of her. And now they've got to deal with the fact, no, we haven't. And that plays mind games for those athletes, because they, as soon as they start to relax and think, right, we've gone from 4 down to 2, now it's back to 3, that's going to offer a little bit of psychological damage and a little bit of fatigue in the other two athletes. So this is a wonderful piece of mind play. I mean, it happened to me, Kenenisa Bekele. I'm comparing myself to him now. I'm not, but I raced him in the big half, and he backed off, and I started to feel like, yeah, I've got rid of him, and I started to push too hard, and that can affect your own race plan. So that's something to be mindful of.
So we're just having a look back at this elite men's race, and it does look like the third pacemaker, fourth pacemaker back. Rob has separated himself, and Yemeni Berhan Kripper has stayed with him. It's great to see the German athlete Emanuel Petros in this group. We've got 2 Europeans up here in Abdi Nagai and Petros, and they are perhaps well on pace to break the European record. They've got a long way to go, but they are cementing their position here in the lead pack.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I need to see the overall split, but to give people an idea at home, 4:40 per mile is 61 flat pace, so they look like, on average, they are inside the 61 kind of pace that they were looking to do, and you've seen now 2 groups starting to form. So these guys have jumped into this league group, so they're obviously feeling good. They're enjoying themselves, and that rest and taper going into this marathon is obviously playing well for them. But to talk a little bit about some of the athletes to look at, I mean, Sawe is someone. I think he's behind. Where is he? I'm trying to see. Oh yeah, he's on the right, two from the front. He is someone to keep an eye on here, and I think his debut was quite incredible. Second quickest ever, so we'll get back.
The world record holder, Catherine de Brunner. Wouldn't that be special if we get a world record in the women's wheelchair race?
Yes, it certainly would be, and we need to keep an eye on that towards the finish. But this men's pack is a lot bigger than we anticipated. A lot more athletes feeling very, very confident. We're just seeing the drink station coming up. That's what the hustle and bustle was going for. Early
loss there of a pacemaker as well. That can be really crucial. 28:57 through 10 kilometres for the men's race here. That is faster than Kelvin Kipton did in his course record, but we know Kelvin Kipton, when he raced, a wonderful Kenyan athlete who unfortunately passed away at such a young age. We will never know his true potential, but he went through in 29:12 through 10 kilometres. I mentioned it, ferocious second half from him, it always was. But Sawe, who you started talking about before we left this race, his second half in Valencia in his debut, that was pretty ferocious as well. So there is still that capability for so many athletes in this field to lift their pace in the second half.
Absolutely. It was his last 7K in Valencia. Sawe was running like 1:59 low pace. It was like I think 14:07 5K pace, which, if people do park runs, can kind of put that in perspective. Just absolutely incredible, savage running. And again, to run negative splits, anyone that knows marathons, to do it like that is incredible. And that's what Kipton was so exciting, because to put that kind of split, that first 10K split on the day, I was in that race, and we got rained on, and it was horrible, that first 10K. and we got very, very cold, which made the second half even more impressive because I was almost shivering that second half. For him to negative split, I think it was one of the first time we'd seen a winner or anyone negative split quite at that pace that day. It was very sad that we've lost him, and we are certainly looking at athletes today, and he's almost, in his short time, he's set a very high benchmarks for athletes to follow. So when we're looking at Zoe and we're looking at Kiplimo, you know, they've got quite big shoes to fill. I'm not sure what their actual shoe size is, obviously, but shoe size is. But they are certainly capable of producing some incredible stuff. But good to see Kipchoge at the front, metronome as ever. But he's got a battle in his hands with his young guns.
What do you make of Petros here, the German, the tall German, really putting himself quite far up in this field? He did hit a new personal best in Berlin 3 weeks ago, 59.31, which is a national record. And then he's the fourth fastest European ever over that half marathon. I think Petros is one for me here that is rolling the dice, is really going for it. And he should be on paper back in that group with Yemeni Berhan Kripa, who's also having a fantastic race, the Italian just further there, but further back. But when you've got an opportunity to run with a group of this caliber, maybe you just got to seize it and have a go.
Yeah, I did speak to someone about him, and they expressed a level of confidence that surprised me. Not because he's not a good athlete, but because he's a 2:04 national record holder, as you say, from Berlin, and it was a couple of years. I think it was 2023 he ran that. So a lot can happen in that time. He's obviously in good form, like you say, with that 59 run, and you know, the way athletes position themselves with the pace group says a lot about their confidence in the training they've had, and he's clearly confident. And if he's come here to take 1 or 2 minutes off his personal best, fantastic. So I think we're going to see a lot once we get past halfway. But I'll tell you what, this is a different world now. The number of athletes that are confident going 61 pace, 61, 2:02 marathon pace, and look at how many athletes who are confident enough to go at that. It's incredible.
Have a check-in with the women's elite race. No change for Jocelyn Kosgei and Tigist Asefa. They are down to one pacemaker, though, here in the women's race. And it is Catherine Amanangole of Kenya. She's doing a very, very good job. Safan Hassan, she's been yo-yoing sort of no man's land there and just getting herself back in. As you can see, she is just keeping herself involved and maybe just picking up that drink there.
Yeah, I'm just looking in the background, wondering what the pacemaker's trying to do. She's hanging in her own group with no one there. But anyway, 5:15, 5:03, 5:15 again. It's very much the nature of the course, sticking around this incredibly ferocious pace. But it's good to see Hassan holding on to a drink, a lot like Emile Caresse last year, making certain she gets all the drink in there and setting herself up. Again, this yo-yoing is all going to be part of her running her own race. But I just hope Asefa took a drink on. We haven't seen it yet. I just hope for her sake that she has. Jocelyn again sticking in there. There's a relief when you get across the bridge in London Marathon. I know we're about to turn the corner and hit the halfway official split, but there is an element of getting north side of the Thames. There's almost like every step you take is closer to home. It's almost like if you think of it as an out and back. I always like to think of marathon running as out then back, and when you're on the journey home and you're seeing, metaphorically speaking, the finish line, it always feels that little bit better. So we're going to get a halfway split coming up in the next 2 minutes. That'll be very interesting to see how they react, because again, I know Safe has been looking at her watch, but Bridget I don't think has as much, and they'll get a kind of an emotional response to when they see that halfway and the realisation of this is the kind of pace I'm going at here.
And I think almost Safan Hassan, I mean, that's a big gap. That could be the biggest we've seen so far for Safan Hassan. But I think there is merit also in slowing down when you're taking that fuel on board. It's hard to breathe and consume the fuel, so why not just take the pressure off yourself and get that down you properly, avoid taking on air at the same time. There's a 5-second gap after 20 kilometres being credited. 63 minutes 12 through 20k. That is absolutely moving. They are 20 seconds faster than Peles Chepchirchir was at this stage last year, and way faster than Paula Radcliffe was. A minute and a half faster than Paula Radcliffe's own course record, 2:15.25. That has stood for 22 years. It was a world record for absolute yonks as well. So we could be on for women's only world record and a new course record if Asefa and Jet Koskai can work together, and we'll just have to see what happens with Hassan as the race unfolds as we move towards halfway point. I love to see a big pack like this. The strength and depth of this London Marathon field is wonderful. And I think you're right, Chris. There's so many athletes can go through in 61 minutes now, and they're inspired by that. And we keep seeing these wonderful debuts, these wonderful improvements. And there's got to be so many athletes that think, I want a bit of that, and why not have a go? They dipped outside the 4:40 pace per mile as we move towards 8 miles here. Is that due to the course, Chris, or do you think they're just settling down a bit?
It'll be partly that, but also partly because they had borrowed time, because they did see a few 4:30s. I think there was a 4:32. I mean, when you get a 4:32, you can that takes out that extra time that you see there over the 4:40s. But again, listen, halfway splits, you know, give or take 10-15 seconds, you know, the athletes aren't going to worry too much about it. But it is incredible what the level of confidence these athletes have. But also, I think what's been really fascinating for me is hearing how hard these guys are training, and the kind of volumes they're putting in. I mean, athletes talking about 250 kilometers a week of running. It's incredible the amount they're doing. But also athletes, one of the big fundamental changes I've noticed is athletes are running 40K almost as a marathon effort. Emil Carres talked about before his first marathon, Britain's Olympic fourth placer, he ran a 40K at 2:12 pace before his first marathon, and then went on to run 2:08 in the actual London Marathon. It's quite incredible what these guys are now doing to prepare for these races.
The gap between the Olympic champion Safan Hassan and the Olympic silver medalist Tigist Asefa and Jocelyn Jetkowski is certainly the biggest we've seen so far this morning in London. I mentioned the deficit in 2023 when she took this win was 28 seconds at halfway, and we are through halfway here in the women's elite race. There we go, right on cue, 66.40 for the half marathon. And Safan Hassan at that point was only 10 seconds behind. I think that's a little bit further right now, but as just said, that's not a deficit she's failed to overcome in the past, so never write off Safan Hassan. But 66.40 through halfway. That is 80 seconds faster than Paula Radcliffe's course record, and 20 seconds faster than Perez Chepchirchir, last year's winner, was at this point. So, can we say we're well on for a women's only world record? That mark stood for a while to Meri Kitani at 2:17, and then it went to Perez Chepchirchir last year, 2:16.16. She actually led the top four, all underneath that women's only world record. That included Jocelyn Jetkowski and Tigist Asefa. They were second and third last time out, behind Perez Chepchirchir. No cracks, no weaknesses shown for these two, as there wasn't last year. They looked very, very strong all the way into that last sort of mile. They all entered the last mile together. But Safan Hassan, she is a bit further behind.
She is, but one of the things she will be thinking about, okay, is this pacemaker is doing one heck of a great job. But we're not far away from the pacemaker's going to start thinking about, I can't maintain this, or dropping out, and then it becomes a race, and that changes everything. Because if neither Asefa or Jocelyn start looking at each other, that gap goes. And so Hassan will be mindful there's still a lot of drama to happen, and Hassan is capable of closing that gap down if she's feeling good in a click of a finger. So I think once the pacemaker drops out in the next kind of, I'm sure these athletes will be hoping she's got another 30 minutes in her, but it's hard to know. She is running incredibly quick, depending on how she's feeling. But it is looking a little bit like these two athletes are enjoying this fast pace. Jocelyn and Asefa are enjoying the fact they're running this fast, which is a worrying sign for Hassan. But again, this story is far from over, and there's still a lot more twists and turns to occur.
Would you have expected to have two pacemakers left at this point, or not? I mean, we saw one of the pacemakers drop off over Tower Bridge, and I think it was one of the male pacemakers as well, dropped out very early, and that can have a knock-on effect if you're not having as much support as you were expecting. Asefa took a long look behind. If she's a canny racer and she knows she's only got one pacemaker, does she need to make a push at this stage in the race just to deter Safan Hassan from thinking she's got any chance of being involved?
This is the almost clever bit that with Hassan, if this is deliberate, is because this is mind games, like I said, for the athletes in front. Assefa is going to want Hassan not to get back on the back of them, and she's going to be looking almost with a bit of trepidation of, is she gone, is she not? And that takes up energy, and she just needs to concentrate on being relaxed right now, because you're not going to make up in the next 2-3 miles what you can lose potentially.
At London Marathon.
What a feeling it is to cross the line, London Marathon winner. He's done this 7 times as well. Incredible.
Beautiful. And there's, all right, we're down to 1 pacemaker already in the men's race at 47 minutes. You certainly would have expected 2 to take them to halfway. We saw an athlete with stomach issues, one of the pacemakers stop, but that is going to affect this race when they look for that overall really fast time if they're down to 1 pacemaker already.
Exactly. It's going to, I mean, not many people can run at this kind of pace for a half marathon, let alone get to 30, 35k, which they would like to happen. And it will come down to athletes having to make a decision who's going to be the brave athlete to carry on the aggressive nature of this run. When you look at who's who, this could end up turning into, if this pacemaker can't get, he looks good, but how far he goes will affect how this race will break down and how it will turn into a time trial or versus a race against each other. But I think from the press conferences, the vibe I got from everyone, records are nice, but they all want to win. You know, Kipchoge wants to win, Soe, Tola, they all are here to win, and so that possibly is going to offer a mindset. And Render itself, I would actually put Matiso in the background, defending champion. Quite a lot in his court that if it goes down that route.
So Jocelyn Jankowski to just Assefa still running well in first and second here in the women's race. Just the 1 pacemaker left for them. Catherine Amangole. And Sifan Hassan, I cannot see her as we look down the road. There she is, just behind. And Sifan Hassan going well here in 3rd place. It's only her 5th marathon ever, 5th marathon ever, 3rd marathon ever. We'll get down to that, but
well, my research was it was 3. I know in the notes we were given it was 4, but I can't find where the 4th race was. London, right. Chicago, Olympic Marathon.
Listen,
listen.
You're right.
I did my own research. But listen, the thing with Hassan is, and this is what I love about her, you know she's going to stick with this. Whatever performance it is today, she's got a drink there. She's just a close-up of her. This is what I love about Hassan. You know, whether she's competing to win or whether the pacemaker's gone. That's early. That's very early. And so Hassan, like I say, go back to her for a second. She's going to give her best performance on the days that she can offer. So whatever, she's not going to see her on the side of the road unless there's an injury or something. And so these 2 athletes at the front are going to have to be mindful. They've got an athlete coming from behind who is not going to give up. Now they're next to each other, and Hassefa saying get in front, Jocelyn, and Jocelyn's not playing ball. Now this is very early now, and this really could, if they're playing games too much, Hassan could suddenly find herself catching these up without actually trying, which will really mess with Jocelyn and Assefa. So Assefa is a very kind of active, thoughtful runner. She almost brings that 800 alertness to the marathon, which is quite tiring. And again, I'll go back to my previous point. I hope she's had a drink, because we haven't seen it.
We haven't seen her, you're right.
We haven't seen it, and I hope she has. I know she knows what she's doing. She's run 2:11. She does know what she's doing, but Bridget had Jocelyn had an air of confidence around her. She's prepped, well prepped, as we talked about, and Assefa, you know, she does have that kind of time mindset from the track, doesn't she? She's very much like, what time am I going to run? Whereas Jankowski is very much like, I want to win.
Well, they were 79.14 through the 35-kilometre split, and I'm comparing that to, that was a wheelchair split that got flashed up there. I was thinking, what is going on? But the 25k, apologies, so they're still well on pace for that women's only world record. But I think you're right, Chris, that pacemaker leaving the equation, if those 2 start racing each other, it could really slow down. And just 1 pacemaker at 50 minutes in the men's race. And I think you're right, these men, they all want to win. I think that a podium would be a consolidation for a lot of these men, but they would still take it. But Who needs this race to be 2:02 to win? Is there anyone there that needs it to keep up that pace and come into that realm?
Yeah, I just noticed a little bit of collision there. Matiso took a little bit of a stumble, and that's the problem when you're running. It's funny when you're running in this close proximity to athlete. There's almost like a tension to your running action. You want that space, and when you're running at these speeds, running tense has a build-up effect of fatigue. But I think, for these athletes, I think the faster it is, the more it plays into the hands of your Sawe's and your Kiplemos. But again, Kiplemo, we don't know. I mean, Sawe we talk about Kiplemo running that amazing world record of 56 minutes. Just incredible. First man under 57 minutes. But he was beaten by Sawe in a Copenhagen half marathon. I forget the date, September, I think it was last year. So it's the speed in which these guys, those two,
around about this point, so 26 seconds is what we're seeing at that last time check. I don't think it looks like she's eating into that gap much. And to just Asefa, she said that she thinks she's in better shape than when she ran her 2:11 world record, and that's quite a claim. And you shouldn't make that sort of claim lightly. And I think Asefa, for me, she was looking to Jepkosgei to say, help me with this pace. And at that point, around about 7 or 8 minutes ago, Jocelyn Jepkosgei didn't really look like she wanted to share the pacemaking duties. I think maybe a game of cat and mouse, Jepkosgei saying, if I hold back for another kilometre, will Asefa just to think I haven't got it in me, and will she take up the running? Because there's a disadvantage here. If you're the athlete that does all the work, it could cost you in the latter miles, and it's too early to think, I'm feeling good. These women have got 40, 45 minutes left to go. They've
running races. I mean, they really, I haven't had the next splits. We're waiting for the update for the women's only world record, but they certainly don't look like they're relinquishing that pace at all. But at some point, I would fully expect them to, there we go, the graphic, there we go. That's what we wanted to see. Right on cue. It's like they're listening to me in the studio. But again, I mean, that suggests to me, those splits, that again, they're still feeling on top of it. The fluctuation will be to do with the course rather than how they're feeling. If you started seeing 2:20s drifting in, you might think that the pace is starting to bite a bit. But we're still, I would say, 5, 10, 15 minutes away from where the real marathon kind of halfway point kicks in. And that's interesting, a little move. We're looking for little signs like that. Jocelyn, I tell you, like, she was one of the picks before pre-race from a lot of people, that she had this quiet confidence about her. She is a previous winner. She just goes about her business. When asked about her chances, she just almost smiled. Didn't really want to give too much away, because she had partly because she had a lot of respect for her competitors, but also because she just wanted to do her own thing and just turn up and race. And that, when you're playing the long game in the marathon, is important. Not to get wrapped up in the emotion of the kind of fanfare beforehand, and just do the things you need to do. And I think she's been really impressive. To this point, of all the athletes, she's the one that's really put in that kind of patience and tick the boxes that you need to tick in the marathon for the second half. But Asefa falling back, I think that's a significant sign for me.
Still a big old pack at the front of this elite men's race, led at the moment perhaps by Eliud Kipchoge by the thickness of a vest, but Sebastian Sawe on the other side of the picture here. We have been talking about this older athlete for quite some time. People are trying to make comparisons between Sawe and Kiptum, and the big argument people keep coming up with is his debut of 2:02 came sort of when he was 7 years older than Kelvin Kiptum. It was almost kind of like, oh, he's finally done a marathon. It should have been that good based on his other performances. But Sebastian Sawe, do you think he's an athlete that needs it down in the 2:02 range to beat these other athletes? Does he need it quick? Because if it slows down, then you're looking at Ngai of the Netherlands, who is an Olympic medalist. You look at Tamarit Tola, who's a good championship runner. Sawe, he was so quick in the closing stages in Valencia. Do you think he'll try and go earlier today?
I think anything's possible. Do you know what's really interesting about him? Well, two things watching him. He looks so relaxed for someone that's running so fast. I mean, they all look really, really good, don't get me wrong, but Sawe just looks incredibly relaxed. But his coach, Claudio Berardelli, I have to apologies for butchering the name, but he has coached some incredible athletes in his time, previous London Marathon winners, people that may remember people like Martin Yell, Amos Cabrito, to name a couple. And he said this athlete is like nothing he's seen before. He is doing stuff that in his 1 years of coaching that is just incredible. It's like he's got this incredible athlete that he's trying to almost manage, and it's really exciting the kind of information that's coming out from the camp, how much they're incredibly impressed with him. And his training partner was third in Boston on Monday. Very, very good run. So I think whatever happens today, or however he runs this race, I think he's going to be an exciting athlete to follow and watch in the future. I mean, to break a 2-hour marathon, you'd have to set out from the word go with a real purpose. But hey, I think for him, he's just enjoying getting the experience with these massive athletes, these big names. Kipchoge at the front, I mean, he knows how to run a course. I'm looking at him, he knows how to run the tangents. But I think Sawe just looks incredibly relaxed, and a lot of the chat in the back rooms are he's really one for the future and could be someone to produce some of the records we've seen the likes of Kipchoge produce. And he could be ready to dethrone him potentially. But we need to talk a bit more about Kiplimo and some of the others as well. We really do, because this field is stacked.
I mean, Timothy Kiplangat here at the front of the race as well, and I think he might be the only man with pink shoes, blue shorts, and yeah, he's got the green number on him, just alongside Eliud Kipchoge here. Timothy Kiplangat, he has run fast, 2:02.55. He's not as experienced as some of the other athletes, but I can't tell whether I like the way he's racing. He's attacking the corners. He's almost making it uncomfortable for Eliud Kipchoge. For me, at the moment, Kiplangat looks like he's trying to break this field apart. Maybe not break away, but just turn it from 8-9 people into 3 or 4. But Kiplangat, I was kind of confused looking at him. He's only a 61-minute half marathon runner. That's pretty slow for a 2:02.55. Like, is he a diesel engine? Has he got to keep this race going?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like X plus Y doesn't always equal. That's a terrible analogy, but 1 + 1 doesn't always equals 2 in a marathon, because you would look at
half plus half doesn't always equal a full marathon.
Yeah. It's the marathon running. I still think fundamentally one of the things I've noticed about marathon running, yes, the shoe technology has really changed things up, but you still need to have that innate marathon ability which separates people from being a track runner. And some of these athletes, Kipchoge's got world medal. In 2003 he beat Garouge in a 5k in 2003, and he's done incredible things in the marathon. But there's other athletes like Matiso, defending champion, who doesn't quite have the track pedigree. A half marathon, Kipchoge 58, I think it is, nowhere near the Kiplimo type. So I think it doesn't always add up. So having a 61 PB is probably a reflection of he hasn't really just attacked one. And sometimes running a marathon, it is hard to run fast half marathons, and we've gotten used to judging everything on times. Look, this is a marathon, not a sprint, to use that cliche. So Petros is really impressing me here. This is quite. He's running with a lot of confidence, but this also might be a reflection of the fact the pace is just ever so slightly kind of knocking back, and he just wants to keep it honest. But there's so many athletes still in this. This is I think it's going to confuse a lot, because for a lot of the time you just almost take for granted there's going to be pacemakers, and the first sort of 18, 19 miles is set out for you. You see the pace and you go, right, I've just got to stick with it. Now everyone's going to be doing their own calculations. What do I need to do? What do I think? And they're all going to have their individual aims. I don't think Petros is thinking win. I think he's thinking he has a time aim, so I need to keep this honest, and I'm not really fussed what everyone else is doing. So I don't think this is necessarily a kind of a flexing of his muscles. I think this is just, look, I don't want to put all that effort in the first half just to throw it away over the next couple of miles.
I think that's exactly it. We mentioned perhaps that first 5 kilometres in the wheelchair race, when it's a gimme, you've got to go for it. And at this stage in the able-bodied race, you certainly say, look, come on, we've all come through halfway fantastically well. There's still so many of us. Perhaps for Petros, if he can keep it moving in this 5 kilometres, get them within 10 kilometres of the finish, 10, 12 kilometres of the finish, the rest of them will keep it moving. But it's this phase here that does run the risk of pushing the race out towards a 2:4. And I wonder, I mean, Petros, it could be well on for a European record here. Nagai, the other European in this lead pack, just behind, the record held by Bashir Abdi from a few years ago. I think these men will feel they can very much match anything that Bashir Abdi has done. They will have raced him many, many times on the European circuit. Petros Just look, this is for me, this is an injection of pace. It's not ferocious, but I think if anyone is close to their limit, this is gonna find them out. Timothy Kiplangat, who was pushing at the front at the moment, you can see his head bobbing just as we go into the shade of the tunnel. I don't think he's been able to live with this change of pace, and that can be hard when you go from leading to suddenly being swallowed up by a pack and spat out the back. Emotionally, that can be quite hard.
And I always like those kind of mini bridge breaks going under, a bit of fresh air, get out the sun, and but it's also annoying because it's kind of up and down. So back to the women's race, and they've started to do almost like a kind of a back to front kind of scenario. We did see in the other pictures before when we were looking at the men that Safer was in front, so I don't think this is necessarily like they are kind of back and forth who's leading it. So maybe there's a little bit of just keep this pace honest, but there's also going to be an element of Safer's going to feel a little bit more confident about her finish, not just because she's an 800-meter runner, but because she did beat her last year in a sprint. Safer was second, and Jepkowski was third. So there is going to be a bit of history that does play into the mind. But again, we're still in the territory of a good, what are we looking at? A good 35 minutes to go, and that will still mean that you still have to think like a marathon runner. You're not trying to deal with the last couple of K just yet. You're trying to deliver yourself to that point in the best condition you can, and they will be listening to see if there's a sniff of, is it worth putting in an extra effort? There will be, sort of listening for signs for that, but at the moment they're certainly visually they're not showing any signs of it's worth pushing on the pace, but to try and drop each other. But again, they'll be listening to each other. They'll be listening to anything's changed. Are they hitting the ground a little bit harder? Are they breathing that little bit more heavy? And that gap is really opened up now to Sifan Hassan.
See, Sifan Hassan some 70 seconds behind these two. I don't know how Asefa seemed to tangle with Jocelyn Jepkowski. There's only the two of them on the road. So Sifan Hassan in a podium position at the moment. Vivian Chariot quietly going about her business. The Kenyan who's been at the forefront of so many global races over the last 10, 15 years. In fourth place at the moment. Two leaders coming through 20 miles, around about 142, nearly 143 there. Asefa, you mentioned she did beat Jepkowski in a sprint finish in the mile last year, but she lost the sprint finish to Jepchirchir. Paris Jepchirchir won the race. Asefa lost that sprint finish and then didn't get caught by Jepkowski for me. And Asefa lost the sprint finish in Paris. And they are slowing. Look at these graphics here we've got on the screen. 5:15, 5:11 for 17:18, and then 5:20, 5:18. Is that, again, Chris, you've got the insight here. You've run London Marathon 6 times. You finished in the top 10.
Doesn't feel like it sitting here, I'll be honest. But,
is that the course or is that fatigue?
It's a bit of both, definitely, because that's Canary Wharf kind of area, and it is twisty and turny. It's a real nuisance. I always say to athletes, for my personal opinion, because we talk a lot about 20 miles is halfway. And part of that is because obviously the challenge of a marathon, but also with London, that Canary Wharf is, you almost want to use that as a point to get to where you run as much as you can to feel, because the race starts now. This is it, and this is where they're going to come out back onto the get back on towards the road towards Big Ben. They're not going to see it for a few miles, but they can take confidence. There's not a huge amount of, there you can see on the graphic where we're coming up to Tower of London, past the athlete. Actually, the athlete hotel has moved now, actually, so the pacemakers, hope the pacemakers didn't stop at the bridge, because they've got a long walk.
Check into the old hotel.
But you've got now, I always felt at this point, the race starts and you've got just a straight shot. You don't have, you've got a few bridges to go under, but you can kind of take confidence that there's not lots of real twisting and turning. So there's the odd corner, but it's nothing too drastic.
But does it feel like an oasis, like it's a never-ending straight, that it's just getting further and further away and you're never going to get anywhere near it? Because it's a long way to go in a straight line.
It is, but I remember someone saying to me, oh, you feel like you see Big Ben and it just never gets there. Yeah. And I was like, why are you telling me that? Like, why are you, it's already nerve-wracking enough as it is.
Sebastian Sarway, the second fastest ever marathon debuter, in the lead at the moment. Everyone keeps talking about that big last 5-7 kilometres he did in Valencia. He was behind the lead pack. He drifted away from the lead and just powered through. And ran away from the other athletes that day. He's going faster here. We want to say he's probably got 45, 46 minutes left to go through 25 kilometres and 73 minutes. And that's underneath Kelvin. No, it's just outside Kelvin Kipton's course record. They've just around about 7 seconds, so not much to play with there. But remember, the way Kipton finished, that sub-60 second half, perhaps his course record might live on this year unless something really crazy happens in this last 15, 17K. Kipchoge looks good, Chris. We haven't necessarily expected that much Meri Kipchoge today. That's been sort of the mantra this week in all the build-up as well. He's been confident. He said he's in good shape, but everyone else has sort of said, well, surely you can't be.
Well, I think he also is kind of humble enough to sort of say, I'm here to inspire the next generation. He's not come here trying to carry the burden of being the greatest marathon runner ever. He's here to enjoy himself and inspire the next generation. That's his words. And I think he kind of wants to just do the best he can. He loves London, 4-time winner, great history here. He's done all he has, but I think he'll just stick with it for as long as he can because he knows no other way of doing it. But I think I want to draw attention a little bit to Lima at the back. He's run a very candid race at the back, and he actually made a comment again in his press conference that he found the doing the long runs quite tough. He actually found them getting to 40k quite hard work. So that jump from those kind of very fast halves to the long runs quite difficult. So he is being very respectful of this. We're seeing a close-up of what a shot there of the three athletes with Kipchoge and then Gaye's coming in. The skills, the titles these guys own, and they're all racing. Like Hugh Gresham made the comment, it's harder to win London than the Olympics. I'm sure Tola, you can see there, who is Olympic champion, will sort of have something to say about that. But in so many ways you're right, because you are restricted to 3 athletes per nation at the Olympics, and you're at the mercy of everyone get it right on the day. Whereas with events like this, if an athlete does get ill or something happens, more can come in, as we've seen with Vivian Chariot. And generally speaking, you get that you can have no limit to who you have on the start line. It's probably financials are probably the biggest limit, and London will pay to have the best athletes, and Tola's here to pick up his well-deserved paycheck of being Olympic champion, Olympic title, and he's putting in a good race. But Sarwe's at the front. He's confident. It's his second marathon, and Kiplimo at the back. It's like a sandwich of the 2 athletes of that we've spoken most about pre-race and during this.
And it's cool to have in that shot the last 3 Olympic marathon titles: Kipchoge, Tola, and they're right there side by side. And I said it in my build-up, Alexander Matiso, the reigning champion, and no one's making that much fuss about him. And Sarwe's stolen the headlines with that great debut. Jacob Kiplimo has stolen the headlines by the half marathon world record and debuting here. But Matiso must be thinking, come on guys, I won last year. I've run faster in my build-up than I did last year, and no one seems to be respecting that. But I think he probably welcomed the lack of attention and then the lack of media engagements this week, having less energy to expend on that side of things. But he's having an absolute perfect race. So he's just in the white bib, just on the left-hand side of the picture now, with the white background to Matiso as well there, the black Adidas shorts. That is the defending champion, and he's looking fine.
I think that's the nature of the world now. We are very much drawn to, sensationalism is not the right word, but almost like a catch or a thing to be able to hang on to something. And I think what a lot of the pre-race attention on Sarwe and Kiplimo was as much about what the future holds as much compared to what it is right now. Because Kiplimo's coach talked about he believes he can break 2 hours in a marathon in a race condition, just not yet. And Sarwe, again, his coach talks about the future. So there was very much a future kind of aspect to the way those guys are being talked about. Matiso is defending champion and now. Tola is now. Kipchoge is kind of trying to keep at bay these young guns, and Gaye, New York champion. But Tola, one of the things, just to highlight one of his impressive feats, he's got the course record from New York of 2:04. That is incredible. I've raced New York and I've raced London, both unbelievably great races by the nature of they hold the world record for number of participants. London of them do compete, but that is an incredible run, and I think all these athletes have some impressive resumes. They really do.
Jocelyn Jetkowski just ahead of h264 at the moment here in the elite women's race. 1 hour 50 on the clock. I think you're on for around about 2 hours 15, closing in on Paula Radcliffe's course record that stood for 22 years. That was so iconic when it happened, and it isn't hard to believe it's lasted 22 years. Women's marathon running has moved on now. Of course, that world record all the way down 2:09. We were due to have Ruth Chepngetich here in London, but she withdrew, as did the defending champion Pelez Chepchirchir, but we've still got second and third fastest women of all time. h264, the second fastest, and there is the third fastest woman of all time. 2 hours 13 for Sifan Hassan. And she's working really hard as she moves through Rainbow Road. Last time we saw the time difference, it was 70 seconds. She had a massive buffer over Vivian Cheriot, who's in 4th place at the minute. But perhaps not a dream second trip to London for Sifan Hassan.
No, but I mean, she's not going to lose the heart and minds of the audience and everyone around, and this, whatever happened today, is not going to change the greatness that she is as an athlete. But I think today, possibly, we might be seeing kind of the repercussions of 4 months off, if that's what she had. I mean, I only took 4 months off in my career if I got injured. I did do that a fair few times, but it's a tough road back, that amount of time off. So, but again, you know, listen, she's hanging in there. Hopefully she can hold on to that 3rd place, but the Gathics behind, Vivian and Co, are going to be gunning her down. But these two still look pretty calm, don't they, at the front? They still look like they're kind of duking it out next to each other, but like I was trying to say before, they're going to be kind of like assessing each other, kind of subtly, kind of trying to get information, trying to weave, trying to read the other athlete. Drinks. Safe is having a drink. Excellent. Perfect. That'll get her to the finish.
Wow. I do think you were quite right to pick up, Chris, that maybe saw her get something on the very first station, 5K, but she didn't seem to take one at 10K. But we haven't seen all the drink stations. But to have her get
I'm sure she has, yeah.
I'm sure she has. And 52.12, that's the closest, that's the slowest they've been compared to Paula Radcliffe so far on the course records. You know, they've just got around about 20 seconds ahead of the virtual Paula Radcliffe from 22 years ago. But to just h264 and Jocelyn Jetkowski. I think at this point, you know, h264 has the more decorated CV in terms of times, in terms of the Olympic silver medal, winning in Berlin when she set that world record. I think this for me, this is almost her race to lose, and Jocelyn Jetkowski should feel like I've got an opportunity here to cause an upset. And both of those mentalities, you need to bring a different level of patience to this level of a marathon. Because if h264 starts thinking, I should win this, I have to win it, I have to force it, she's going to make a mistake and she's going to go too hard, too early. And Jetkowski, I think she at this stage, when you're exhausted, is it tempting to start thinking, oh, well, second's good, second would be really, second to h264 is just fine.
I think you're spot on with that analogy. We'll pick that up again when we move back. We're back to the men. Again, I mean, splits tell the better picture. There's a couple of drop-offs at the back, or is that the chase group? I'm trying to see behind the bikes. But again, this looks, Sawe just looks so relaxed at the front, and he's happy to be there. I think, again, when you're trying to position yourself, and they've really started, now that's a significant drop-off in pace, 4:48, 4:50. That's really backing off. So I think that's really going to play into the hands of the chase groups, and I think it's going to play into the hands of those that can close hard, which Sawe can. I think Batista, you know, he's strong. Tola, do you know, Tola really impressed me at the World Championships in UG. I did commentate on that, and he had this really strong, powerful wind-up, but he almost runs based off what other athletes are doing. He's not too obsessed with times. He almost feeds off the energy that they're lacking and piles it on himself, and then he just keeps piling it on. But when it goes wrong, he has had some bad races. He has had the odd DNF. But he's a confidence runner. When it's going well, you don't want to be in his slipstream, because he'll just keep going. We
were talking about Tola just before we moved back to the women's race, and he to me, on paper, you mentioned that course record in New York, which really needs to be respected. But is he a man for a hilly course? I mean, what he did in Paris, the way he broke away from the field up one of the massive hills at the Olympic Games, I thought it was a crazy move, a really stupid move, but he made it stick. So I think you're right, he has this ability at this stage in the race to do a big old move and just blow the field apart. We're just trying to spot who that is that's drifted off the back of the field. I don't think it's Kip Limo. I think I saw Kip Limo. No, Kip Limo's tucked at the back of the group. I think it's Kip Langat who's just struggling off the back of that. I think we've still got Jacob Kiplimo just behind Nagay. We don't have to panic, yeah, because he's a man. We know the track credentials he's got as well. Is that him just moving? No, he's still stuck at the back of the pack. Because I think all the reports about Jacob Kiplimo where he's got to chill and respect that first half, and then he can go for it. But Tola, the way I love your analogy there of the instinctive racing. For me, if Tola wants to win, I think he's going to try and lay down a huge 5K pretty soon.
Yeah, and that's how he likes to race. And, you know, even there, I'm looking at the cameras, I felt like he just did a little bit of something just to assess and get to read the information a little bit. But again, this is a big field. I mean, we're at 126, and that's largely, I think, for me, come down to the fact we lost the paces so early. And I think there's a lot of confusion, what's going on. There's almost like this buzz of bees kind of manoeuvring themselves around. But we're coming up to Canary Wharf. These corners and how you take them are going to, how you come out of Canary Wharf. If you feel like you've got your legs under you when you come out of Canary Wharf, it's game on. You come out of Canary Wharf and feeling a bit like your bum's starting to fall to the ground, a bit scraping on the ground, you know it's a long way to go. So these guys we're going to start to see these, I like to call these the moving miles. I'm taking that from golf and the moving round on the third round of a Masters. Fantastic watch. And these are kind of the moving miles where you really start to see things happen and things start to shake up. And this is a big group of people. And I don't think ever in the history of London Marathon we've seen a big group like this going into the final mile. It would be fantastic, but listen, commentators curse. I think there's going to be some big movements happening over the next mile, and they're all just going to be kind of looking. This crowd will put people off making too big of a move.
Kiplimo made an important move round Elliot Kipchoge. This group is just starting to spread out for a bit, and Elliot Kipchoge looked brilliant about half a mile ago, and all of a sudden he's just dropped his pace and he's just fighting to stay in contact at the back of this group. Jacob Kiplimo was really attentive there. He moved straight round Elliot Kipchoge to make sure he was on the back of this group. I think Kiplimo is content to be at the back, as is Ngai. We mentioned he's the New York Marathon champion after that disappointment of dropping out of Paris when he was trying to get on the podium for a second time. Ngai, I think, was the first European World Marathon major winner for Yonks. It was really great for the Dutch athlete to take that win. He's been happy to sit at the back and not do much, as has Matizzo. Whereas you look at some of these other athletes, they're trying to make it happen. Sarway has always been up there, he's always been involved. And Kip Koech there, one of the other athletes, just trying to keep this race going. That's kind of the first time we've seen Hilary Kip Koech at the front. It's his second marathon ever. He debuted in Valencia last year behind Sarway in 2:04. That's pretty aggressive running from Kip Koech when he's in such esteemed company with all these men with 2:02.
I was going to say, with him, it's like one of those things with the marathon. Like he's kind of had quite a big rise to form. He was a 7th in rack half in 59.53 earlier this year. But the point with someone like him, he's the kind of athlete that can kind of surprise on the day because he is on this upward trajectory. You know, a lot of athletes like Kiplimo come onto this with a lot of kind of history of performances, but one of the unique things we're starting to see is a lot of athletes are coming into marathons without much background and having this rapid ability to mix it. Partly maybe it's the technology, partly it's the people just getting the confidence. But you saw that the Lemu in the women's race, she kind of came into the marathon quite raw and just started off at 2:30 and just got quicker and quicker. So, you know, you can't discount anyone, and everyone's still mixing it. Matisse at the back, and Kipchoge, unfortunately, looking like Canary Wharf might be getting the better of him a little bit here.
It's a real shame. I think Elliot Kipchoge has put together a very good 90 minutes here at the London Marathon, but
won't be a cheap 90 minutes either.
I think that won't. I mean, he's got his drink fine. Let's have a look. Kiplimo on his debut, that's important to be able to get your drinks. While Sarway didn't go for a drink there, Chris. Sebastian Sarway didn't bother. He's pushed on. I think it's bold. It's a good opportunity to have the opportunity to do a move, but to do that without taking a drink, that's a risk, surely.
You would think, but to a certain extent, that feels like a very deliberate thing. He's got the experience of a very positive experience of what he did at Valencia, and we're looking at Kipchoge now, who is going to have to enter his own kind of mind to get to the end of the race. But Sarwe's made a move there, and it would be good to get back to see the front of that, because that looked like quite significant. He almost looked like he was trying to get a jump while everyone was kind of had their backs turned trying to get the drinks. And see you at the finish, Kipchoge. Fantastic athlete. But we're going to go back to the wins. But Sarwe, hopefully we can get back to see what's going on there.
Just past 2 hours in the elite women's race. Tajis Assefa and Jocelyn Jetkowski have been alone at the front of this race since around about halfway. They had a pacemaker for another few miles after that. But the rest of the athletes, first Magerto Alemo dropped away, and then Safan Hassan, the Olympic champion, couldn't live with the pace that these two were going at. 35 kilometres, 1:52.12, so they're still underneath course record pace, still on course for a women's only world record. Assefa and Jetkowski working well together. And Sebastian Sarwe has turned that mini break at the drink station into a significant lead here. They've still got half an hour or so to go. This is a long, long way out. He moved at 7K to go in Valencia. What, it's more like 10K to go here? That's a big, hard, long move from a long way out.
This is really ballsy. I have to say, we talked about this before the race. What if someone made a move and then it becomes about this chase group? Because it happened in Boston. The gap opened between the leader and the chase group to about a minute, and in the end it ended up only being about a 10-15 second win. I forget the exact numbers, and it kind of was deceptive. Now this is going to be his confidence coming off the back of Valencia and just how quick he went, and I'm sure a lot of this is also coming off the back of how easy he looked and felt. But we need to keep an eye on this, because we're potentially watching the athlete of the future produce something special, or we could be about to see one of the most incredible finishes. Either way, this story is really starting to fold, and it's just as we said, as you come out of Canary